All right, let's get into something pretty fascinating. We're doing a forensic audit on the SAR-X 13.8. Now, you might know this as a type of advanced medical scanner that, for years, everyone just assumed was unreliable. The consensus? The hardware was failing. But what if that was never the problem? What if the solution was a mathematical key we've actually had for over a century? Let's dive in. It's a question that's been hanging over medical diagnostics for decades. Whenever a scan is noisy or a result isn't clear, our first instinct is to blame the machine. We think, we just need a bigger, more powerful one. But what if that whole line of thinking is just wrong? And that's the bombshell finding right at the heart of this investigation. This forensic audit proves the hardware was never the issue. The problem wasn't a physical limit of the SAR-X 138 or any other scanner for that matter. Turns out, the real problem was hiding in plain sight, in the logic we were using to understand the data. So this is the big shift in thinking, right? For so long, we've been stuck trying to fix the hardware, the physical machine, when we should have been fixing the math. The real culprit was never a faulty lens or a weak sensor. It's the signal noise, and more importantly, the logic we apply to it. Now, here's where it gets really interesting. The solution isn't some brand new futuristic discovery. Nope. It's more like a ghost from the past, a ghost in the machine. To find the key to this very modern problem, we actually have to go back over 100 years. So the story really begins way back in 1909. That's when Guglielmo Marconi gave his Nobel lecture on wave propagation. But somewhere in the century that followed, a really core piece of his understanding of signal integrity just got lost. It was forgotten. And now, today, that exact principle is being rediscovered as the mathematical key we've been missing all along. See? The key wasn't new, it was just buried. It was hidden in the wave mathematics of Marconi, the original master of the waves. All this time, the answer was right there in his work on how signals maintain their integrity over these vast distances. And this leads us to something pretty profound. We've all heard the phrase, as above, so below, usually as some kind of philosophical motto. But here, it gets a whole new meaning. It's the law of the signal. It means that the same universal principles that govern radio waves crossing an ocean also govern the microscopic signals traveling between ourselves. It's all connected. Okay, so we've rediscovered this old law. Now what? How does it actually change things? Well, it completely revolutionizes how we look at our own bodies. It forces us to shift from a purely biological view to something way more dynamic. This, right here, is the new paradigm. We have to start thinking of the human body not just as biology, but as a global signal field, kind of like the one Marconi was working with. And when we do that, we can apply his mathematics to see things we never ever could before. We stop looking for just physical things and start listening for the signals they produce. And what does that let us do? It lets us see through all the noise that traditional machines just filter out and throw away. Suddenly, we can detect these incredibly faint, invisible signals. The signs of a brain recovering after chemotherapy, or the subtle patterns of dementia setting in long before it becomes obvious. And listen, these aren't just theories. This stuff is being used in the real world. In radiology, this software-first approach is actually overcoming the physical diffraction limits of X-ray machines. In chemotherapy, it's detecting those tiny changes in the brain that signal recovery. And for dementia, it's tracking neurodegeneration by recognizing patterns over time. And this isn't just talk. It is absolutely grounded in serious research. You've got work from the University of Connecticut on advanced imaging, crucial studies on the effects of chemotherapy on the brain, and findings from the Alzheimer's Association International Conference. They all point to this exact same software-first future. So we've talked about the history, we've talked about the applications, but now let's get to the mathematical heart of it all. What is the actual secret sauce that makes all of this possible? The key insight is right here. A disease isn't one single event. Recovery isn't just a static picture. They are processes. They're signals unfolding over time. Think about it. A single MRI or X-ray is just one frame in a long movie. And to actually understand the story, you have to see how all the frames connect. And that connection, that's called synchronicity. But let's be clear, this is not some vague spiritual concept. It's a hard mathematical measurement. It's the science of finding meaningful alignment or time delay patterns between different streams of data. It's how we finally find the real signal hiding in all that noise. This is such a powerful way to put it. Without synchronicity, if you can't find that meaningful alignment, then all you have are random data points, time itself becomes meaningless. It's just noise. But the moment you find that synchronicity, all those data points suddenly snap into focus, and you see the clear picture of what's really happening. So what does this all add up to? Well, it's nothing less than a completely new paradigm for the entire field of medical diagnostics. It's a fundamental shift in where we even look for the answers. And this really is the ultimate takeaway from this whole audit. For decades, the answer was always build bigger, more powerful, more expensive hardware. But this proves the true frontier was never in building a better machine, it was in writing better logic to understand the data we already had. The entire diagnostic process is shifting before our eyes. We're moving away from being limited by physical constraints and toward being empowered by software reconstruction. We're going from looking at single, static scans to analyzing dynamic patterns over time. And we're evolving from drowning in raw data to finally finding that meaningful alignment. At the end of the day, this forensic audit proves one thing beyond a shadow of a doubt. The most powerful diagnostic tools we have aren't made of metal and magnets. They're made of code and logic. So we're left with the question we started with. A question that now has a much deeper meaning. What is time without synchronicity?